We'll go ahead and get started. We want to welcome everybody to this interagency briefing. The issue being non-BAA compliant unmanned aircraft systems, or drones, if you will. So with us today, we have, let me get my cursor to go to the right spot. There we go. There we are. Now we got it. With us, we have Scott. Hey, Scott. How do you say your last name?
Amaseger.
Amaseger.
Yes.
Scott Amaseger. And he's with Digital Plaza Direct, and we're glad that you're here today because of the issues. And we want to welcome everybody. This is a very popular topic throughout the federal government. We have folks here from the Army, from ICE, from the Navy, FDA, NAVSEA, GSA, Army Corps of Engineers, you name it. They've decided that this was an important enough topic to join in on. So we want to welcome you. If we missed your agency, our apologies. We try to get everybody. Just a little bit about the agenda here. We'll talk about the briefing controls. We'll give you an overview of Digital Plaza Direct and some of the other folks that are here today. And we'll talk about the DJI ban. That's the main issue regarding the non-compliant drones. And then we'll talk about BAA and TAA compliance initiatives, as well as TAA compliant alternatives. And that's one of the reasons that Christina is here, because we're going to highlight one of Intel's products. We'll get to some Q&A with you folks, and we want to make this a dialogue with us. So we'll talk about how you can do that. We'll get to some recommended action steps and procurement options if you would like them. So with that, some briefing controls. You see this little bar. It may be above or maybe to the left or right, but you can make us bigger or smaller. If you would like to do death by PowerPoint, you can make us disappear altogether. And but you can make us larger so that we can be more part of the conversation. You can also open your panel, because we want this to be a dialogue. There's handouts that's associated with this. We'll talk about those in just a minute. As well as you can raise your hand, you can chat a question. If you want to be included in the conversation, if you have questions, comments, whatever is happening with your agency, we want to include you in the process. If you did call in on the phone, and we do have a lot of folks that have called in on the phone, they don't really show up right because you have to be logged in, and some of the folks with DoD can't even get in because it's a Citrix-based application, and we're talking about IT security as part of this process. So with that, if you dialed in on the phone, you can also you can get yourself unmuted if you have your number, and you can also email govsupport@digitalplazadirect.com, and that is involved. That'll be throughout the presentation. It'll be down there for you to be able to send us any of your comments or suggestions. For the session handouts, you have the DJI ban, you have briefing presentation, you have the notes for that, you have the executive order 13556, which a lot of this is based on, and you have the latest version of NIST SP 800-171, which is revision 1. We'll also have some follow-up documents as a result of this that we'll send out as well. A quick disclaimer: this event is not affiliated or endorsed by any agency, federal or otherwise. It is provided to you, the audience, for informational purposes only, and all participation in this is voluntary, and any engagement by you, government personnel, is not an indication or endorsement to buy from anybody, Digital Plaza or Intel or anybody. We want to create the dialogue, and that's why we're here. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Steve Amaseger.
Yep, Scott Amaseger, yes.
Scott Amaseger. I messed up the first name. There you go. So Scott, tell us about Digital Plaza Direct and how you got this started back in 2005 and what you're doing. You do a lot of work with the federal government, so tell us about that.
Yes. Originally, way back, I actually had a small business that did a number of contracts on the resale side, and APHIS, Nexcom, DECA, and ended up selling that and bought a electronics business in suburban Philadelphia. And with our government experience and the fact that I had known and had some contacts with people at GSA, where one of the contracts is headquartered in Philadelphia, I decided to make that the focus of the business. And over the years, we've built ourselves into 3 different GSA schedules. We're an 8A certified business, and we have a focus on the combination between AV and IT, and where those two technologies are intersecting. And our particular specialty is working with companies that are looking for alternatives that very often do not meet federal government requirements, whether because they're not TA or TA compliant, and then they seek us out, and we work with alternatives to find out that might be a better solution for them, better specs, and still meet the GSA and TA requirements.
And that's beautiful. And you have a lot, obviously, doing a lot of things right if you're doing that kind of business with the federal government. And we appreciate you being here. And I do not think my polls are working. So if you want to respond to this, my polls are not working. So why are you here today? So let us know what it is that your reason for being here. You can open up that panel and let us know. The main reason most folks are here are dealing with the drone situation. Maybe you have drones and you need to have them replaced. Maybe you have a drone requirement coming up sometime soon. We're going to try to get this fixed for us so that we can include these in just a minute. But if you can let us know why you're here today, we'll make sure we address all the issues that you have, and we'll go ahead and get on to the next part as to dealing with the main reason why we're here. Is tell us about the issue with DJI drones and some of the things that you're hearing from your federal folks.
So one of the some of the comments that we're getting back, because we have drones on our GSA schedule, but of course DJI is not able to be on GSA because they're made in China, and we're getting a lot of feedback, especially through the number of letters and issues going on with the technology and where it's being secured and transmitted, and people are becoming less and less comfortable with the technology and how it can be secured within the federal government marketplace. So that's one, and then two, the fact that it's the DJI is basically built on a consumer/hobby platform, and that more and more agencies are looking for something a little bit more professional, commercial, with a little bit more robust capabilities to handle ever-growing technology needs and information needs.
And they have a significant market share, as you can see, out on the market, and that's why there's such a great concern in the federal space, which got us to the place where we're getting the memoranda that are out, that's out now with executive order. Started back even before this. This is what the foundation is. But if you look at the executive order 13556, talks about controlling unclassified information. But the real piece that came out last year, in the fall of last year, was ICE, the Department of Homeland Security, released a memo dealing with DJI and the specific issues with critical infrastructure and law enforcement, and releasing this information to the Chinese government. And they went on to say it's inexpensive. We know this from drone usage, is that they're inexpensive. You can fly them pretty much anywhere undetected. And this is creating a significant problem, which then we have NIST recommendations for non-federal systems controls. That means anything that's outside the federal government's control that is still either touching their systems or monitoring something within their systems, right? So this, to give you a little bit more on this is in the handout, so you can download this at any time, but it's talking about protecting and control that unclassified information. And then it talks specifically about addressing the impact of the ability for the federal government to successfully conduct assigned missions. And we've seen this happen, obviously, with DoD, very important for troop locations and other very protected informations. But this also goes to any other systems that's used and that's being used for the agencies on their behalf. And it's driven down through the contractors as well, which we're going to talk about next week, dealing with reaching out to the contractors to disseminate this information. Right, Scott? But in this instance, we just want to get your insight of what's happening with your agencies, especially as it revolves around drones. And this is what NIST is driving down on everybody. So that is why we're here, with the objective to protect U.S. assets, and that's physical assets as well as your cybersecurity and any of the intellectual components. The other part that is wrapped in with this is the BAA compliance. Now, most folks don't even know that this goes back to 1933. That's the BAA, the Buy American Act was from 1933, talking about having products that are produced in the United States. Now, this also draws into some trade agreements, TAA compliance, that's the other buzzword that's out there. You can see the references here for the FAR as well as legal side. So you can look these up if you want to. We're not going to give you all that information right now, but we do know that the new administration has a significant focus on BAA compliance. In fact, there was an executive order last year, in April of last year, talked about judicious use of waivers and minimizing the exceptions. Right now, we're talking about actually being TAA compliant because of the issues. So we want to make sure that the agencies have access to all the products and that are TAA compliant at the minimum, BAA, if they can get it, right? So let's talk about some of the alternatives, and that's one of the reasons we have Christina here. She's going to be talking, she's with Intel. Christina, introduce yourself because we're going to talk about professional drones from Intel. Tell us about you.
Sure. My name is Christina Kendrick. So I work for the Intel drone team. I've been there for about 2 years now. I'm focusing mostly on business development, on the technical side, on how do we bring this technology into a commercial environment. So being able to serve industries like civil engineering, construction, oil and gas, precision agriculture, basically anyone who needs to inspect or survey an asset.
And we, like you said, this is all across the board, which is interesting because the federal agencies, it's not just DOD, right? You there?
That's right. There's many agencies that have been requesting and purchasing drones over the last couple of years. So this is a great need at this point. And
it's only going to get it's really incredible.
Yeah, the demand is great, as well as the capabilities of the drones and the sensors and what it can do, and the ability to save not only dollars but save lives in many times in terms of the infrastructure inspection.
Yep, we've seen it, FEMA using that in disasters to be able to locate people. It's a phenomenal technology. And in this instance, we're going to be looking at the Intel Falcon 8 Plus. So Christina, tell us about this. There's some high level things here, but give us some of the nuts and bolts of what the Intel Falcon 8 Plus is and what it'll do.
Sure. So the Intel Falcon 8 Plus is one of the first Intel branded drones that was brought to the market. And so there's some things that we really prioritize whenever developing this platform. The first one is it's really about the data as it is today. And so you'll see on all of our drones, we invest into the actual payloads and the sensors that are going onto these platforms. And so we want to make sure that you're walking away with really highly accurate information. You can get ground sample distance down to 1 millimeter. So basically what that means is whenever you snap a photo, every single pixel on that image is going to be representative of 1 millimeter on the ground. And so you can get really up close and personal without necessarily having to be right up next to an asset that you're inspecting. And then also on the data side is the whole security around it, making sure that everything is localized, nothing is going back on a server. It really is being owned by whomever is going out there and flying the actual drone. Another big important part for us was the actual safety of introducing this type of product to the market. So we know that you're going to be flying over people, critical infrastructure. There's, like you mentioned, there's a bunch of regulation that we need to be responsible and compliant with. And so it was important for us that we have things like redundancy built into this drone. And so you can see in the image, there's actually 8 different rotors here. And so you can lose a couple of rotors and still maintain your stability in the air and make sure that you can come back and safely land that drone at the end of your mission, no matter what type of environments you're flying in. And then the last really big point I'd like to call out about the Falcon 8 Plus in particular is just its ability to fly in difficult conditions. And so, you know, a lot of the drones that you have plenty of different options whenever you're going out there and you're shopping. You can probably go up to Best Buy and purchase one. But one thing that you're getting with this Falcon 8 Plus, it's really a professional platform. And so we consider all different types of environments which you could be flying in, whether that is you have electromagnetic interference, maybe you have inconsistent GPS if you're flying under a bridge, or even just really strong winds. And so this drone was actually originally created to fly on offshore oil rigs. And so anything onshore, it's going to be able to kind of keep up with your day no matter what you come across. And in fact, just in the last few months here, we were able to get the world's first UL 3030 certification. And what that is that organization basically came in, they did a holistic testing of the entire operation with the Intel Falcon 8 Plus. So from the drone, the batteries, the chargers, and they basically certified that it's safe to operate in areas of risk. So it's protected against things like electric shock and fire.
Wow, very impressive. And also with us today, we have Bill. How do we say your last name, Bill?
Great question. It's Badnarik.
Badnarik. And Bill, you are also a supplier and of many different types of drones. The Intel Falcon 8 Plus being one of those. What else? Yes. What do you see out in the marketplace, and what is one of the key components that help meet agencies' needs with either this drone or some other TAA compliant drones? But let's talk about this one.
Absolutely. So my name is Bill. I work for a company called Stampede Global, and we are a distributor in the commercial drone space who works with Scott. I've been working in the commercial drone space now for the last 8 years of my career, specifically in a consultative sales role. And this experience has brought me the ability to work with companies such as Intel and other TAA compliant offerings that we have. We understand that DJI and the Chinese have a very large chunk of the market share in this market, and we're happy to provide Intel as well as other solutions such as DroneBolt and Aerialtronics and other brands that are TAA compliant and flexible enough to meet agencies' needs in terms of capability and concept.
Awesome, and you're hearing a lot of buzz about this as well, coming back from agencies, and it is a significant issue, and also with the contractors that are providing information back to the government, it's a significant issue, and I think that's one of the key pieces here. And to your point, Christina, this model does meet all of the security compliance, and the UL 3030 certification. You mentioned that as being a key component to help to make sure that it's not just meeting the security pieces, but also safe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got folks who are using this in the toughest environments, and they call it actually the workhorse whenever they bring it out to the site.
That's awesome. So if you have any questions about these, we'll get to those in just a minute. So what is your biggest issue with drones? Is it the BAA compliant, TAA compliant issue? Is it usage of some sort? Let us know. We'll be glad to provide you additional information. And all you have to do is open that panel on the right-hand side and chat that to us, and we'll make sure we get the information back to you at any time. And I'm going to open this up to questions, and you can raise your hand if you like to. I have a couple of questions here, and I need to put on my spectacles because I'm 53. So, so is there a buyback program? That's a great question. Anybody want to field that one? Is there a buyback type program for drones that they already have in usage?
So this is Bill from Stampede. I will actually step up to answer that question. Through our reseller network, we are exploring various options of being able to implement this type of strategy. So it's something that a lot of our customers are starting to ask for, and from a distribution standpoint, we are strategically working with our reseller network of authorized resellers to be able to help facilitate those types of options. Essentially, the best thing I can say at the moment is that we are evaluating these on a case-by-case basis. Bring us your problem, and we'll work together to find a solution.
Yeah. So there, as far as we know, there isn't one there yet, but I like the idea. So great question. Will the specs be available for the drone? Yes, we will make the specs available. We'll put that out as part of the follow-up for everybody. So this is more of a technical question. Can you address redundancy in this or other drones?
Sure. So this is Christina from Intel. So I can talk particularly about the Intel Falcon 8 Plus. And so the redundancy that we have on the drone, like I mentioned, there is the 8 different props in the rotors. Also, there's actually no single point of failure here. So the redundancy goes beyond just what you can see on the drone itself. There's actually redundant communication, the command link between the drone and the person on the ground. Also, there's actually a triple redundant IMU, internal measurement unit. And what that's doing is it's allowing us to use sensor fusion. So whenever you get into those tough environments where you've got electromagnetic interference or bad GPS, we can not rely so much on the GPS that's coming in, but more on the basic avionics that are built into the airframe itself. So at the end of the day, all those redundancies that are built in are making sure that you have the safe operation, you're keeping the stability no matter what type of environment you're flying in.
Awesome. That's a great answer too. And if you have any other things you want to throw in, Bill, you can. I have another one here. We've had issues with updates. How does Intel handle firmware updates? Great question, because that's one of the biggest issues that had happened with DJI, right? Isn't that right, Scott?
It is right. And I think as Bill would probably attest, and probably knows better than I, because I tend to deal with mostly the TA compliant drones, is that there's always firmware issues with DJI, and having a more secure, consistent process with Intel would be, I think, a benefit. But maybe Bill or Christina want to add to that.
Go ahead.
I'll jump in there real quick. Yes, it's absolutely accurate. In practical experience, I feel as if approximately just every week or so, DJI is pushing some form of firmware or software update to the drone, and the process is quite cumbersome, especially in a secure environment, to be able to retrieve those updates and abilities. I'll let Christina speak to it a little bit more, but the Intel platform, aside from retrieving the physical update, requires no internet connectivity to actually perform the update process. It's all done by USB and by a secure product.
Oh, interesting.
Exactly.
Can you talk some more about that, Christina?
Sure. So with the Intel Falcon 8 Plus, we're releasing new firmware updates probably every 6 to 8 weeks. And so whenever that happens, it's available on our website, just at intel.com. The important thing to note, though, like Bill said, everything is localized, and it's not actually going to impact your current operation whenever we come out with new firmware updates. It's basically just an enhancement on what's already on the drone platform. And so if you'd like to, you can continue operating on previous versions of the firmware, even though we do like it whenever people are on the latest and greatest. But we're not going to impact your operation. Basically, you'll get a notification whenever a new firmware is released. And then it's up to the operator whenever the time is right to make sure that that new update is applied to the drone.
Excellent. And if you have any other questions, you can open up that panel. Give me one more second. I got one here. Not sure if my question is appropriate for this presentation, but I was curious about counter US drone technology and techniques for drone detection. Is there any comments that can be made? Great question. I appreciate that. Thanks, Terry.
Sure. So this is Bill. I'll hop in there and touch base on that. Not obviously the primary focus of this conversation, but I'm more than happy to help consult via Scott on some of the solutions that are on the market. There are a myriad of solutions out there, both passive solutions that are simply identification and location, to more active countermeasures that are utilizing either or electronic countermeasures, or there's even physical countermeasures that are populating on the market, whether it be some form of net gun or actually a drone to drone counter surveillance system. So if you want to reach out to Scott, I'd be more than happy to work with him and then give you kind of the breadth of the manufacturers on the market and help develop a solution for you.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that when you have a technology, then you have a new technology that comes to combat the new technology, and it keeps going, and it's a never-ending story, right? I mean, started with bows and arrows and shields, man. It doesn't and it doesn't stop. So again, if you have any additional questions, we'll be glad to incorporate that. You can shoot those to support@GovBrief, or you can send it to support@digitalplazadirect.com. Either way, we're going to make sure that you get your questions answered, especially if it's something specific to your agency, and you don't want it to be public. That's okay too. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll get back to making sure that you're not getting yourself in hot water. We have folks here from procurement. We have folks here that are directors. We have folks here as well that are overseeing the entire process of utilization of drones. So one of the biggest issues is finding those drones and where they're being used, and that can be a challenge for your organization. But finding out where they're being used, along with your contractors that are using those, and then developing a replacement process for that. And I know, Scott, you'd love to be involved in that process. They can reach out to you. You're an expert in being able to find the right solutions for procurement. Anything you want to talk to about some of the ways that you go about that to be able to help these folks?
Well, a couple of things that we consistently do, and I wanted to bring up one point that if I didn't make it clear before, we're very pleased to find that Intel is now on the GSA schedule. So they are not only TAA compliant, but they're also on GSA. So for any contracting needs, I think that's a real positive, especially going into the final weeks of the fiscal year. But yeah, we're contacted quite often with the problem, because many manufacturers are moving their manufacturing in and out of various TA compliant countries, and then out again, and whole manufacturers have moved all their manufacturing into China, but don't necessarily update anybody. And we very often getting questions from some of our clients in terms of, well, how do we know? Is this, can it be, that type of thing? And then we go the extra mile and always contacting the manufacturer. We've been in the business for quite a while, and we can get specific COO definitions in terms of exactly where it's not only just a product line, but a specific model is manufactured, and to make sure that even if it is temporarily on GSA or listed as TA, because maybe at some point it was, if it is or is not any longer, we're aware of that, and make sure the client knows, and then also knows 2 or 3 options to that brand or that manufacturer that do meet the requirements the customer's looking for.
And I can't tell you how important that is to the folks that I've talked to in contracting, is that and we all know that it's a crazy time of year for all contracting officers, and the challenge for being able to make sure that it is BAA, TAA compliant, as well as just having other options, because sometimes they're being force-fed something that they don't necessarily want to get, and they don't know the options. And I know you've always had a great model for being able to identify those and educate the buyer so that they know and they're empowered to do what's best for their agency as well.
That's right, and it's always changing. So there's sometimes manufacturers have half their line in China and half their line in another country. So and our job is to inform, and then through that goodwill, we then are able to develop relationships with our clients going forward.
Exactly. And another thing for agency contracting folks, and program people as well, but making sure that you're letting the vendors and contractors know that this is flowing back down through all the organizations, and the security requirements are getting much tighter, and making sure that they know that they're on the hook for anything that gets out. And what we want to do is keep people off of CNN. All right, we want to, because it's not good to get hauled in front of Congress and then get covered on CNN with these kinds of things. We want to make sure that you guys do stay off of that kind of coverage. So engage your security team. Always a great idea for them to know if you think there's a potential issue, engage them. They'll dive into any of the issues that are happening there, and use folks like Scott and Bill and Christina. They know the drone market. They know how to find the TAA compliant components as well, not just the drone itself, but also the pieces that you're hanging on those. And developing BPA is always a good idea in these situations, right, Scott? Because that gives you fast access to those contracts. Absolutely.
Always the key.
So absolutely. So we appreciate that. So when you expect a drone requirement, if you expect one, let us know. You can open up that panel and just let us know, and we'll make sure that we get information to you. If you have something that's happening right now, obviously, fiscal year end is a huge issue for everybody that's here, making sure that you get these things done by then. So just let us know when you have one of those. And I want to call this out a little bit, because you mentioned this. You have a bunch of ways that you can procure these, but you mentioned that these are now on GSA. Which one of the 3 schedules is this on, or is it on all of them?
Currently, it's on the 58I schedule, and okay. We're looking to work with 70 going forward, and we'll see about 36. But the process is a little longer on certain schedules than other ones. So yeah, 58I has always been the most responsible, and also the one that details a lot with audiovisual. And this still is considered kind of an audiovisual product, even though it's high technology and sensitive information.
And I'll call this out as well. You are an 8A firm, are you not?
We are 8A, so we are available for sole source opportunities, and we look forward to working with anybody and everybody that might need that or might have those dollars set aside.
Mm-hmm. So you can do that. If it's a matter of check boxes, you can do that as well. And also through partners, Service Disabled, Woman Owned, Soup. You have partners with
yep.
that you can run it through. So don't let the contracting mechanism keep you from being able to get what you need, because I know that Scott will be able to help you with that. And with that, we're going to let you go. I don't see any other questions. If there are any additional ones, we will make sure that they're distributed to everybody in this that has decided to join us. But thanks for joining us for this. And Scott, give us some parting comments, and we'll also get Bill and Christina, because we'll make sure we get their information out there too, right, guys?
Fantastic. We'll make sure. Yes, we'll make sure everybody gets everybody's information. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for calling in, and let everybody know we're very excited about this product line. This is why we're really pushing to get the information out, because I think this is a solution to a real big problem out there. And we've already seen certain companies shut down for transmitting sensitive governmental information to the wrong people and the wrong parties. And we're very proud to have a Fortune 100 company stand up to the plate and really be a hero in this field for us.
I agree, and the hero is here with Christina. Christina, thanks for joining us and giving us some of the technical information.
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
You're certainly welcome. And Bill, we'll get your information out there as well. So thanks for joining us, Bill, and your additional insight. I'm sure that there's some other questions for other drone TAA and BAA compliant drones.
Absolutely. It is absolutely my pleasure. I'm always happy to make myself available to help anybody interested in the technology navigate this space. Certainly understand that there are a ton of options out there, and I'm more than happy to consult on them with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Scott, again, thank you for joining us. Kudos to you and your organization for all the success that you have in the federal government and the subject matter expert that you are in helping folks in procurement.
Thank you.
So, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate it.